Welcome to Three Devs and a Maybe, the podcast series for beginner web developers and general web enthusiasts. Now, introducing your show hosts, Michael Budd, Fraser Hart, Lewis Keynes, and Ed Mann.
Hi everyone, and welcome to week 12 of Three Devs and a Maybe, the podcast for web enthusiasts, programmers, and generally everything web. As usual, I am joined by the brilliant Lewis Keynes.
Well, good evening, and thank you for that.
And the amazing Ed Mann.
Too kind. And also we are hosted by the great Mickey B.
Oh.
That you need it as well, you know.
Thank you.
Ed, I've already got a bone to pick with you.
Oh.
Where's your welcome back music?
No, I completely forgot. Well, that was on Twitter and I was thinking, I can't top you with your Eminem, can I? I listened to that again on the way to Scotland.
Return of the Man. I told you, that's the one. Go for it.
Oh dear. But I couldn't top that. I listened to it on the way up to Scotland again, that bit, and it was so good. Oh dear.
Podcast gold.
So, how was Scotland?
Yeah, it was really good. The weather was a lot nicer than down here, surprisingly.
Yeah, it's quite shocking, isn't it?
I know it is. Well, this down south, it's just seemed down south in England. If everyone from the crossword, because we're millions of people are listening to this. Obviously, it's pretty bad down south at the moment, and it was just like I went all the way up to John O'Groats, and the sea was calm, everything was calm. There was no rain, and I just thought to myself, back down in Land's End, it's completely the bipolar opposite, and yeah, crazy. But yeah, it was good weather. There was a little bit of rain in Glasgow, but other than that, it was a pretty good couple of days. Yeah,
I must admit, I love Scotland. I think it's one of the most stunning places I've ever been to, actually. And when I went, it was chucking down with rain. It's one of those places that still looked amazing, even when it's like grey and rainy.
I suppose they have to like do that, don't they? Because they deal with so much rain. They kind of have to be, They don't have the option. I'm only joking.
Exactly.
Love you, Scotland.
How about you, Lou? You had a good week.
I've had an okay week. I'm trying this week desperately not to say because everything.
Well, you've just done it, so you failed. I'm sorry.
Well, no, that's the first fail. And to be honest, I've probably already done it so far without realising. But
have you? I don't know.
I'm not sure. But I've been listening.
Has he?
I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm not sure. I think it was an
I don't know. Is it that joke fell on its arse. I'm sorry.
No, I was listening to the fifth one we did on source editors and IDEs earlier on. Yeah. And I must have in the first 5 minutes, I must have gone about 10 times. And I was like, God, it's not a good state of affairs when you're getting annoyed listening to yourself speaking.
Oh, we all do, mate. It's it's not a nice experience listening to your own voice, but you sound great, mate. You sound really good.
I always sound like I've got a really bunged up nose as well. So
me too. How about your VCard Nightmares? Is that all in the past now?
It is a matter that has been resolved.
Excellent.
I would say, but it's not one that I still fully understand.
Okay.
Why it works. I did it again. I did it there. That's when. Right.
Don't you worry.
Oh, this is going to be really hard, but I'm consciously trying not to do that. They're basically.
The more you think about not doing it, the more you're going to do it.
I'm just going to have to speak normally, and if it happens, it happens.
Exactly. Don't worry about it.
Ed got in touch. My good friend Ed Mann. Hello, Ed.
Hi.
He basically sent me through like a nice little snippet of code, which was like something I'd tried to use before, where rather than actually reading it out the file, you declare it in a PHP. It's a here doc, that thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a string pretty much, just like a raw string, but
yeah,
just because you can then do it on new lines, you don't have to worry about concatenating afterwards.
Exactly, yeah. So basically, I used that, and all the relevant bits like the name and the contact details and everything like that, I replaced that with the data that I needed to include, and then underneath what I originally had, I had a path to a file, and then I was using the PHP headers to tell it was a VCard, and then I was using read file, which was a command that I found on quite a few articles, and I'm pretty sure that I even had that working at one time, like the first time I got it working locally. So I had that in place, and I switched that over to Echo as well from the thing that Ed sent me, and the combination of all of those things seems to have made it work. So it's one of those things. Have you ever done that where you look at the working solution and you think, well, I'm sure I did that about 10 steps ago, so why is it suddenly working now?
Like every day of my life. It just goes that way sometimes, doesn't it? Sometimes you think, well, this looks syntactically, it looks fine to me. I'm getting no errors. I have no idea why it's not working. You take it out, do it again, and it works. And you think, what's going on?
Another weird thing, when you use a PHP here doc, you have to glue it to the left side of your editor. So there's no line spacing. Because if you don't do that, then it breaks the whole string. And
really?
You know, like when you've got a PHP string, if you don't close it off with a quote, the rest of the code highlighting goes all skew-if and it doesn't break it properly. If you don't...
So is that like a...
Sorry, go on.
Is that like a white space issue?
I guess so. It's just...
Is that like a white space? Is that a white space issue?
I think so. I think it must be something to do with white space. But it's annoying... Oh, sorry, we keep bloody talking over each other. Oh, swore. It's first time swearing on a podcast as well. Apologies.
Boo! I don't know if we've lost... I don't know if we've lost Mickey.
Are we having audio trouble?
I hope not Skype. Damn.
No, I'm hit.
Yeah, I could...
Yeah, he's skipping all over the place.
Issue.
He's skipping all over. No, I think it must be Mickey. Boo! I'll quickly... Well, you know, with the gist I sent you, Lou.
Yeah, are we going to go back over that bit, or are we just?
We might as well keep it going. We're a free love podcast. But with that stuff, with that, it was interesting because you said you were using read file.
Yeah.
And read file is quite interesting because I think because I remember you saying about an output buffer, and it requires you to have an output buffer.
Well, here's the weird thing. When I first came back to you yesterday, and I was like, "Hallelujah, I've got it working brilliantly." I still had read file in, and I commented out my my OB start function in my index file, which I can't remember why I put that. I was having header issues, and I thought maybe this is something I'll come back to and look at later, because that's kind of a bit of, I guess, maybe a hacky way around the old header issues that you can get. Yeah. So, but the weird thing is, I commented it out, and it worked, and then I undid the comments, and it still worked. So then I was getting confused. So then rather than saying that it was able to import the card, it was saying it was able to import the card, but there are errors. But even though when the card went in, it worked. So that's when I got rid of the read file thing and went with the Echo, because then I was able to have the best of everything in there.
That's it, because I know that because it stores it in out. The read file is really good for large files, but with files like maybe I don't know if you use file get contents in the end. Which because of them, just dump it in that way.
That's another thing that I tried. File get contents. I tried literally every single combination, and I still can't pinpoint exactly what it is that's the working solution now. That was so different, apart from the read file in the Echo. So rather than reading the VCard out of a file, I'm just literally echoing that VCard string from the controller function that I'm using.
Ah, right. Well, the mysteries of PHP, hey? The mysteries of PHP. Dear.
We appear to have lost Mr. Bud.
Oh,
so.
He's back.
Am I back?
You are back. What is happening with your internet?
Well, basically, just don't get your internet through Utility Warehouse.
I thought you were going to... There we go, break them. Leave them alone, all right?
I thought you were going to say Carphone Warehouse.
Either or. I'll probably get sued for saying that, but who cares?
They are a sponsor, so...
Can I just point something out? We appear to be acknowledging an elephant that isn't in the room.
That's true. Well, we haven't gone through, have we?
Yeah.
I can't help but notice that one of our good friends isn't here.
Yeah, we should explain, I guess. As you all know, one of our beloved colleagues, Fraser Hart, is not with us tonight. I think he might be off for a few weeks because he's actually gone to a flower arranging course. Because for you guys who don't know, you might have seen on his blog, he's very, very passionate about flower arrangement.
It's a bit weird. I remember when I first saw him and I was like, a bit odd, but yeah, this guy, he's a man's man, but he likes flowers. But
it's really odd, isn't it? Like web and flowers. You wouldn't think those two things.
It works really well for him. He gets all the ladies for it. People call me the player. I mean, but
yeah. And he's literally won awards, hasn't he? I think,
a lot. If you go to his blog, you see, you can't knock it if he's doing that well in it. So fair game to the guy, and hope you have fun.
yeah, it's something I think he's looking at maybe moving into after web. So yeah, good luck, Fraser, and hope it's all going well. And we'll look forward to having you back when you're all done. And take some photos. We'd love to see how that's going. So, but yeah, Fraser will be back in at some point. So don't worry. But yeah, Ed, I think we talked about your week. You're in Scotland, but how about anything programming related, I should say?
Essentially, I've got a couple of things, because obviously being away for a week, I've got like this backlog of a couple of links that I wouldn't mind showing off. Have any of you ever heard of CSSReset.com?
I've heard of a CSS Reset file.
Yeah, same, yeah.
So CSSReset.com is pretty much just a aggregation of all of the CSS resets that are like, you know what normally happens when you start a project, you go and find the CSS reset, maybe Eric Maury is one and stuff, and he's got an awful website to copy it from. But this website, literally, you go on it, click on it uses the Z-clip flash thing, quickly get the minified version, dump it in your browser, dump it in your Sublime Text or something, which is great. It's a nice, quick website to go to. Definitely have that in your bookmarks. Another thing is you might not need jQuery.com. A couple of weeks ago, that was making Twitter headlines with the fact that it shows alternatives to say, look, why do you always need to load up this big old thing? Even though jQuery isn't that big, it's pretty much the average size of what a normal picture is if you start adding that to your website. But it says, do you really need to add jQuery onto this website? And here's alternatives in the actual, browser, works with IEs that can actually work instead.
Interesting.
Really? Wow.
See, that's a cool lick.
It gets used a lot for, it might just be needed to polyfill a tiny thing. And then that's
exactly it, and they add that dependency. And I mean, it's interesting, but I still go with the fact that I know I'm bringing, this bulldozer to I don't know, that was a pretty bad analogy, but it's ridiculous, like to think that not use jQuery because it'll probably be cached in your browser anyway. And developers that are coming in are more likely to going to understand the code written by jQuery than maybe your weird hacky way around, even though it's probably not going to be commented because you just copy and paste it from this site. So it's a good thing to learn for a learning curve and to be confident in straight JavaScript. But take it with a pinch of salt, really. Another thing I did this week was I was playing around with SSHFS. So the idea of that is it's similar to Expand Drive, which is a Mac OS X application. But what it does, it uses Fuse, which is file system file system over user? No.
Right. Ed?
God?
Hello? Oh, sorry. I just realised there, your mic almost cut out as well. This has not been a good day. So it uses Fuse, which is file system in user space.
Yeah.
And the great thing about this then is you're able to actually implement file systems that use underlining different technologies, not just a hard drive. So you can do stuff like your Dropbox will come into, I mean, you see that with a folder, but you can actually make it look like a drive. One of the great things, you can pretend that your SSH connection, say to your server, is itself a drive on your machine or a volume on your Mac.
Okay.
I wrote a blog post on it. It's really useful for stuff like, I mean, sometimes you do just want to be able to go in and you don't want to have to terminal in or upload a file via SSH and stuff. You just want to be able to look at it as if it was a local drive and play around online. And it's a really simple command. It's a quick installation and stuff. And it's definitely worth it.
That sounds quite similar to something that we did at work recently, because we've we started looking at Git and things like that. But as a temporary measure, we've actually started bringing in Beyond Compare. And one of the things you can't do with Beyond Compare is an SFTP connection. But the way that you can get around it is if you can map that drive, you can then do Beyond Compare that way.
Are you using Macs then, or are you using
Windows? Yeah.
That comes with it for free, I want to say? I say free out of the box, or do you have to buy any software?
I think on the Beyond Compare website, they actually tell you where this open source software is to map.
So it's a common problem. That's why then they start. And finally, it's completely not computer related, but it's awesome. It's something called Cola Rebel.
Okay.
So I'm drinking one now. It's cola, but with chili.
Oh.
Now, that sounds proper weird, but it's their slogan is the world's strongest cola with chili. And I got it from the 99p shop as a joke, and now I've started loving it. It's probably really bad for me. It's probably got loads of crap in it, but it's lovely and it just tastes great. So,
how much did you get paid for that sponsorship for that drink?
I'm saying I won't say anything, but Cola Rebel, it would change your life. What was another one? Coda Rebel. It defines you.
Can I get a bit political for a moment?
It depends on the political. Because Coda Rebel doesn't sponsor anything.
What do you guys make of this whole neck nominate thing?
This what?
Oh, that is no. I don't like that at all.
Horrible, isn't it? Do you not heard of it, Mike?
No. What am I missing out on?
Oh Christ! Well, basically, the first person who ever did it necked a drink of, I don't know what the actual rules are, but they necked a drink, whether it was a pint of whatever, and then what they do, they neck their drink and then they nominate 3 people to then do the same thing, and it becomes like a viral thing. And I think the challenge is
Are you on your sofa?
Yeah, I am. Sorry. The challenge becomes to like drink weirder and weirder drinks, and then like keep nominating 3 people, and it has gone really viral, and people have actually died now doing it because they're doing stupid things like pouring in like bottles of Jägermeister to a pint glass and like proper crazy stuff. You know, like when you're at university and stuff, you do a few stupid things or whatever, but. Like these are, I mean, I don't know. I think it's the most ridiculous thing ever. Well, I mean, it's a bit of fun if it's used in the right way, but it's obviously now starting to get really competitive, and people are actually dying from doing this.
Yeah, because I mean, at the end of the day, alcohol is poison, right? You just
Do you know what isn't poison? Coda Rebel.
Coda Rebel.
It defines you.
I nominate it. No, I don't.
No, please, no. No.
But yeah, they're basically what you'll get like an email through or like a Facebook message or something from one of your friends saying that they neck nominate you to do this challenge.
And I just say neck off. So
and
pretty much, if anyone does it, just neck off, and that's goodbye.
Yeah, if anyone's thinking of nominating me, then I couldn't think of a worse way you could be wasting your time.
Yeah, I'm definitely in though. No, I'm not at all. That's a bit weird. Yeah,
I know it's a bit off the topic, but it's been in the news. I'm surprised you haven't seen it or heard of it.
I've been a proper hermit crab this week. I've no idea what's going on in the outside world. It's just been frantic.
Non-raining again, floods. And neck nominate. I'm pretty sure that's it. Ed, anything else? Fraser's gone on this floristry course.
Yeah,
that's it. I've got a couple of tweets of the week.
Yep.
I Am Developer is one of the greatest accounts in the history of the world. To find tweets of the week, you just literally have to go through what he's been posting the last couple of days. One of these is great. I've been using Vim for about 2 years now, mostly because I can't figure out how to exit it.
Brilliant.
That's followed by, whether you'll enjoy this one, Mickey, is developers don't sleep, we wait. You just can't beat him. He's just constantly knocking it out the park, and it's just crazy. I don't know whether it's a couple of people doing it or this guy who's just a really funny dude.
I've just gone onto his Twitter page, and I've just seen one really funny.
Yeah.
Get blame sunshine error. Get blame moonlight error. Get blame good times boogie.
Brilliant.
Yeah, he's put him and Ricky Gervais, I think, are probably the 2 most entertaining people I follow.
Yeah,
on Twitter.
So is Ricky Gervais actually funny on Twitter then? Because
Very
a lot of
funny.
these celebrities don't really do much.
He's absolutely brilliant. Even if you're not a Ricky Gervais fan, just forget that it's Ricky Gervais. It's just funny. Because a lot of it is he's a really, really strong atheist, and he's just fighting off all these people that are trying to convert him. And it's brilliant reading.
I had someone follow me today called Girl Pain. I don't want to say anything bad in case she might have got my details free, listened to our podcast. I'm not going to say anything derogatory. But I was a little bit surprised. I don't know what I'm going to have in common with that, to be honest with you. I dread to think what she tweets about, to be honest with you. But if it's kind of time of the month type stuff, then I'm definitely going to stay away.
All I know is that she definitely drinks Cola Rebel.
How much money do you get per reference to Cola Rebel?
I don't know. I'm working it out. It's one of those like rolling release cycles.
Brilliant. Lou, have you had anything from Laravel Gestapo this week?
No. I think they must have. I don't follow them though, mind you. The first time
they follow you.
Yeah, exactly. I figured I didn't need to follow them. No, I don't know if that's something that kind of started and finished at more or less the same time.
Okay. No worries.
Can I just read out one more I Am Developer tweet that I've just seen? Wally wears stripes because he doesn't want to be spotted. Oh, fair play.
Oh dear.
Fair play. He's funny.
Any hot picks from you, Lou, for this week?
Hot pick? Oh god, yeah. Not actual like tutorial or plugins wise, but what I have done, I got really rebellious last night, and I've upgraded my terminal on my laptop.
Yeah.
I'm now rocking iTerm 2.
I didn't even know you could do that.
I heard about that. I've never actually played with it. How are you enjoying it?
It's slightly well, it's just a better version of the terminal, basically. I did it again. So yeah, it's really nice. It's nicer looking, and you can get loads of themes and stuff. And I got the idea of it from a Laracast tutorial, one which I subscribe to, the Jeffrey Way Laravel series. I don't watch a lot of the Laravel videos, but I do watch the ones that are kind of generic.
He releases a lot of those, doesn't he?
Yeah,
they definitely pump out. Is it a lot? Is it more people now, or is it still just Jeffrey Way doing that? Because I know it's
I think he does all of it. I've got a hell of a lot of respect for him. I think he's brilliant. It's just not so much the Laravel stuff that I follow at the moment. But like this one last night was setting up how he's got a new computer, so he thought it'd document how he set up his development environment using Vagrant and going through all those kind of things and what bits and bobs he uses. And yeah, iTerm and something called Oh My ZSH.
Oh my Z Shell.
Yeah, which is brilliant. So I'm now using both of those.
You've moved away from Bash. Oh, you traitor! You little Z Shell person.
I don't know. Is it not the same thing then?
It's like different. What is it like? So you've got like you had Shell initially, and then you had all these derivatives like Bash is born again Shell. So they're slightly different.
Oh, okay.
I think Z Shell is probably the best for like autocomplete and stuff like that. And Oh My Z Shell is great because I know they've got Oh My Bash as well, which is like these plug-in type architecture on top of them, which makes things a lot easier because it will add automatically like the Git status updates and stuff, which is really cool. I've just kind of like just stuck with Bash and just got my doc files up on GitHub and just kind of every so often like find something from online and just copy and paste it into there and build up my own little thing.
Yeah, that's exactly. I think it's nice, and it's certainly because I really really like using my terminal as much as I can now. So to rather than looking at a boring old white box, I've got something now that looks a lot nicer, and particularly like you say with Git, like even the little things like when you like create a new branch or something like that, it'll even guess the branch names and stuff. It's just little nice features like that. I haven't even looked at what other plugins there are for it yet, but I like it. So that's pretty much it. That's all my picks for this week.
Yeah, fair play.
The rest of it's been spent battling VCards up until yesterday, which I've droned on about, and finishing this site off. I'm literally about a day and a half away from completing this site now, which is lovely. So I've been doing a lot of testing and things. So
it looks really nice, man. I mean, obviously I had a look today. I thought I was really impressed. It looks really good, and that's your own framework as well. So
yeah, I'm really really pleased that to say that I've built the whole thing from scratch.
Ooh,
it's great.
You have to send me a link, man. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. I will. I can't obviously publicise it on here, but I will.
Everyone, it's www.codarebel.co. Sorry, last one.
FraserHartFloristry.com.
Oh, yeah, no, yes. Actually, on a serious note, I don't think he's quite got his site up yet, but he did say any inquiries about anything like flower arrangement, because he does weddings, there's all sorts, but I think if you just...
It's crazy, this guy who's a web, but I suppose it works well, doesn't it?
It's really weird, isn't it? Really weird.
As you say, what is it, his email? Fraser at...
Is it Fraser at FraserHart.co.uk?
Okay, and then just in the subject line put like florist, I think is his... I've seen a couple of emails like... Because he actually did one for me.
Yeah, he did something for my friend's wedding as well. He's really good. I mean, you wouldn't expect it.
He's had years of experience, though, to be fair, and as you say, he's got wards and stuff. So go for it.
Yeah.
If there's anyone out there that knows how to arrange a chrysanthemum, it's our man. It's our man Fraser.
See, why do you joke about these things, Lewis? You know he doesn't like that.
Yeah, he does get angry about sunflowers, doesn't he? Like, I don't know why. He gets really, really wound up, but. Yeah, any inquiries, just Fraser at FraserHart.co.uk.
Cool.
So, Ed, had you finished with all your hot picks?
I have. It's on to you, sir. Have you got anything you can
I need to up my game. I really do, because
But you did have a really cool one last week, though. When I listened back to it, which awesome, by the way, guys.
Yes.
Awesome podcast last week.
Thank you.
Awesome
Thank
CSS.
you.
That was great. But yeah, you did a really good one, man. Like the what was it? The audio.
Yeah, we did say.
And I love the demo that you did with Lou. That was hilarious.
We did say we'd look into that and explain, and it looks like so all the modern browsers have built-in speech recognition. So this plugin just taps into that, which is really cool. I don't know what browsers support and which ones don't. I'm guessing all the new ones do, but how far back you could go with things like IE?
It'd be IE6, won't it? I think.
Really?
No, I'm joking.
No.
No idea. There's like a DirectX plugin. No, ActiveX plugin. No, I think it'd probably just be 10, maybe 9 and 10.
Yeah, I would have thought so. Yeah, definitely. But yeah, that's how it works at a very crude level. So yeah. So I guess if we're all done with our hot picks and stuff. Oh, I should say kind of what I've been doing this week, I guess. But same as usual, but just loads of uni work, and I am still playing with process-orientated languages. I say languages. I've only looked at one so far, which is OccamPy, and that is challenging because I've never ever worked with anything other than anything that's basically sequential or
imperative languages.
Yeah,
thank
you. Yeah. But now that playing with this is really, I'm right back at the beginning now, like such a noob, and I have no idea what I'm doing. But hopefully, in a couple of weeks, I'll be able to say I can do a little bit of OccamPy and maybe tell you all a little bit more about that. But at the moment, I'm far too uneducated. But
I have similar plans to that actually. Once I finish this site, I'm planning on delving into the Ruby world.
Ruby.
Nice.
Yeah,
because we did say we would do this at some time. We would all look into a different language and
yeah,
all do it. So I'm still up for that. So if you do that, then maybe I will have a play with Ed's favourite language, Python or something. Or
you're going to love it, sir. I've been playing with that. I'm making my own framework in it, but I'll talk about that at a later date.
Okay. All right. No worries. Cool. Okay. Well, shall we crack on with our topic for this week then?
Go for gold.
Which I will explain to the listeners because we keep telling them we're going to do certain things and then we change it. But basically, because Fraser's away, we really did want to we want to get Fraser on it, and also design that we used to work with, Justin. So we're going to look at design at some point, and it will be probably Justin talking a lot and us asking him questions. But because Fraser's away, we're going to wait until he's back. So this week we actually had a good think about what we're all interested in, and something that we felt we could confidently talk about to a certain degree, which is MVC. We spoke the other week about object-oriented programming, which I think is a good prerequisite for looking at MVC. Probably not absolutely necessary, but I think it is relevant. So we're going to look at that today. And for anyone who's never heard of MVC, we're going to have a look at it all and explain to you what it is, why it's helpful, and all those things. So, and Ed has kindly put some notes together. So I'll hand over to you at this point, Ed, man.
Okay. Hello. So MVC, at its highest level, let's just describe. So the idea of MVC is to describe and implement software constructs in terms of their individual responsibilities. So all that really means is the idea is to separate the concerns that you have in an application. When applications are small, it's very easy to say have one file, and the architecture of the actual system doesn't, really mean anything. But when you start getting bigger applications and stuff, and lots of logic in there and a lot of areas of activity, you do care about system design. And MVC is an architectural software design pattern that helps deal with that. The idea of it is that you encapsulate your data together with related logic in models, so that's the M. You isolate that from the manipulation, which is in the controller, and the resulting presentation, which is in the view. It's funny, if you do a quick Google search, I did it today, and if you do a quick Google search, if you do it straight after the Wikipedia entry, which is a really good read actually, I would definitely recommend that, is ASP.NET MVC. Now that's great, but you would think, well, Microsoft made MVC. No, they didn't. MVC's been around for a long time, but they've it's a very good implementation they've made, but it's just an implementation. It's a framework similar to it's really a result due to all the popular web frameworks that have come around before it.
Yeah.
But then one thing I did want to talk about quickly was what is a design pattern? Because MVC, Model View Controller, is a software design pattern, but what is actually a software design pattern? And really, it's just a generalized, reusable solution to a common occurring problem in our software design domain. So it's really just like a blueprint. You can think of it as like a description or a template on how to solve a problem. They kind of are built from best practices, so they're good, things that have happened in the real world that are like, this works out well, we use that. It's not a finished design or implementation, so there are things up to your interpretation, stuff like you're not going to be able to just get it off the shelf as being, oh, I want the MVC in Java, and then, you have to build it up yourself. It's more generic than that, meaning it stands the test of time in just not one language.
Sorry, can I just ask a quick question, actually? Obviously, you pointed out that it's not Microsoft's. Is there anyone or any organisation that claims to be the father of MVC?
So it's interesting. So the MVC was that's actually a very good point, because I'm leading on to that. So it was originally, it was originally proposed for implementing graphical user interfaces at Xerox PARC in the 70s.
Right. Okay.
So it's not really owned by anyone per se. It was more just like a research project, I think, that made up the idea of this design pattern MVC. So it's in the 70s and stuff.
Okay. Sure.
And so in the 70s, and what they thought of was the idea that you had your models, and this is just a bit more details. You had your models, which are your application data, your business rules, and your domain logic. And in a case like that, maybe it's a class that defines a user with an update method. So it stores the user's content, the user's name in there, and there may be an update method to update the name. And then you have your views, which are dumb in a sense, where they just output the representation of the information from that current model's state. So that would be maybe the input form to update the current user information. And then you'd have your controllers, which connect the models and views together. And so they pass the input from the view to the model's update method.
I really like the... For me, the thing that really makes sense is the traffic warden example.
Oh, go for it. I've never heard that one.
Have you not? I'm sure you told it to me, but maybe
That's
not.
Embarrassing.
Wow. Well, what my understanding was, and this will lead me on to another question in a minute, but the idea is that the controller is the traffic warden, and he basically says, look, give me this, go and get me that, go and give me this, and he controls the flow of everything. So the models where obviously you've got all your business logic, but the controller's the traffic warden. He says, go and get me this, go and get me that. And then he then gives it to the view, basically.
See, that's an interesting thing, actually, because that's what I originally thought it was like. But the views in actually the original specification for graphical user interfaces, because we're very web-orientated, so I'll explain that a little later on with that. But the actual interactions, so this is interesting, so the actual interactions between the three things. So controllers send, this is the set thing, is to send commands to the model to update its state, so our user's update method. It sends commands to the associated views to change the view's presentation of the model. So that's what you were saying. And then the models, though, they notify its associated views and controllers when there has been a change in the state. So it's like binding. And then this notification allows the view to update their presentation and the controllers to change the available set of methods. And then you have the views, which are just told by the controller all the information it needs for generating an output. But there is that way where the models actually can call the views or publish. So that the idea is the controllers will offer facilities to change the state of the model, either using direct calls, such as static calls to methods, or using like a dynamic publisher subscribe pattern, like observer pattern, which is another design pattern, which uses the idea that the model will say, look, this has been updated, and if a view's linked to me, like been assigned, saying I would like to subscribe to your information, it can then do something with it.
That's really interesting, because I've always thought of the controller as like the dominant part of the MVC, and I've always thought, well, it should have been called CMV, because that, to me, almost like follows like the order of importance. But actually, from what you're saying, it's actually that the model is almost the biggest player here.
It's very weird, because I didn't know this either, and it's only since like when I've been reading up on this, and also beforehand when I was looking at MV Star frameworks, which are like the JavaScript ones, where we're putting it really was starting to use the way that was originally proposed. Because of web applications and the way they are, we've had to change it around a bit.
Yeah. Okay.
So now we've got MVC. So that's the base. The idea of it is it's like a triangle. So you have your model up top, and your model will react with the views, and it will react with the controller, and the view and the controller will react together. So it's in that triangle diagram shape.
Sure.
with web applications, so it became very popular, MVC, in the web development game, with the popularity of implementations found in Java's Struts framework and Ruby on Rails. There you go, Lee. Which use the pattern to good effect. And there are two common implementations found in the world. The first one is the one that we're more familiar with, and that idea is called the thin client. And the idea is that early MVC frameworks took a thin client approach that placed almost the entire model, view, and controller logic on the server. Actually, to be honest with you, I wouldn't say almost. I think it was all on the server. All the model, all the view, and all the controller would happen on that single request and response. So in this approach, the client sends the request to the controller, receiving a complete updated response on the view, and the model only exists entirely on the server. So the client has no idea about what's happening. It just knows about, if I send this information, I'll return something back. This is called the passive model. That was a technical way I found it. It's called the passive model. The idea of the passive model is the objects used in the model are completely unaware that they've been used in the MVC pattern, because that's what we normally think. We always think, well, the model has no idea about the views. With it, it's interesting, and that's more of a linear approach, but it's quite interesting because that doesn't break when we fast forward to actually having this idea where models and views interact, because the model is doing a publish method, so it doesn't know actually what views are actually doing it. It may not even be a view that's actually trying to get information from it, and it's not tied to that view to be used. So it works that way as well. So the controller notifies the view when it executes an operation on the model, and that will then require the view to be updated. This works well with this, as I was saying, with the web, because of its strict request response cycle. Because obviously the fact of the matter is we send a request and we get a response back, and we don't have this dynamic, interactive, highly update things that are updating and stuff until SPA, single page applications, became widespread. So that then moves on to Fat Client. But before that, I don't know if any of you have anything to say with the passive model.
I don't know, but I thought it'd be a good idea to perhaps bring Lou in here and just perhaps just get some idea of his first experience with MVC, if that works with your notes and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Yeah. Well, if we're going back 18 months, to be honest, I didn't even really know at all what MVC was until my first day working with you guys.
Yeah.
When I got sat down with you, Ed, didn't I, to go through Code Igniter?
Oh, I remember it like yesterday, sir.
So, yeah, my introduction to web development was all about making procedural websites and literally example.com/contact.php, and that was pretty much the extent of a website URL. There was no mapping to controller methods or anything like that, and the whole phenomenon initially, it was terrifying. I was like, "What's that?" I didn't even realize that this way was possible. I'd never seen it before. So all I can say is that when you first look into it and you're trying to get your head around it, it can be very, very complicated. Like, it seemed very, very complicated, but once you get your head around it, it's to me. I mean, it is the way that I make websites. It's the way that, for me, it's the way that I know that I'm going to be able to organize my code best. One of the worst things you can do, I guess, is when you work with a website that you haven't worked with before, and you just searching just to even try and find the file that you're supposed to be working in, and things like MVC frameworks. I mean, if you take away obviously any kind of routing process where you can manipulate the URL in its kind of simplest form, you could look at example.com/blog/posts. And then from that you can deduce that you're going to be looking in a blog controller for a method called posts, and it's so easy then to just kind of navigate your way through, and all the code is organized there. That controller will link to your blog model where you get all your stuff out of the database. To me it's the perfect way to organize code, and obviously learn PHP from a procedural point of view initially, but I honestly recommend the sooner that you can get into working in an MVC style, the better.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, and I would echo everything that you just said in the fact that it is really scary when you first go to it. I know a lot of people laughing or saying no, it's not, but it is.
I completely agree.
When you
it seems over complex until, like, exactly what Lewis was perfectly said, is the fact that you have when you go into a project, you have an idea where controllers will be, and that's the fact that, you know, being a design pattern, it's got this idea of what the structure of where things should be and how they should interact.
Yeah, and you know, going back to what you said, it's a way of, it's a separation. Is separation of concern the right thing to say? I'm not sure, but
I think so.
Yeah, because it's the concern, like, because it's you know, that the view is concerned with viewing, you know, only displaying stuff. Then the controller, as you were saying, is like the traffic warden.
Yeah,
and then the model is the concerned with database calls, maybe, or maybe just the business logic.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just a really nice way of keeping your code clean and concise. And
the best thing is it's the spaghetti code, isn't it? It takes all any kind of website where you're weaving in SQL queries with HTML code and all that stuff, which is horrible and hard to avoid repeating. Yeah. You know, well, this is the solution to that.
Yeah. I mean, if you've got people who know just about HTML, they don't know about PHP. That it's so nice then to then point them to the view where, okay, you probably will be injecting PHP bits there and stuff, but predominantly you hopefully have HTML. I'm obviously referring specifically to web frameworks at the moment, but it's so much nicer to do that and then pass it to someone and say, oh, can you change this, rather than giving them all your logic in there as well. They don't want to see that. What's the point?
It also gives them an interface, doesn't it? Say if you give it to a designer or someone who you say is less able with the code, or you don't want to trust them with the code, or you've got a different department or something, you know, say you just need to update these bits here and that's it, and then you can push them live without interfering with, like, as you say, this jumbled spaghetti code of, you know, a bit of view in there and a bit of logic there, etc.
Exactly. Yeah, I'd like to not quite now because I know we're going to discuss this later in your notes and stuff, but I'd like to get Lou's feedback on HMVC a little bit later. That'd be good to bring that in. So
sure.
But yeah, I'll let you crack on it.
Oh, so right, yeah. So me just yabbing on. I'm really sorry.
No, it's fine.
So the fat clients, and fat clients are clever clients because client technology, our browser, our good old Chrome, our Firefox has become crazy good now and crazy powerful with JavaScript. You've got stuff like frameworks such as Backbone and Angular, and they've been allowed us to create MVC components and deploy them partly onto the client. So this provides a similar implementation to the original GUI description that we were talking about, with models being able to notify views again and with updated state, and that works really well for us because it then means that, you know, things like, say, oh, my message count and stuff can be, you know, the information can be either polled or pushed to me, you know, the fact that this is updated by the model change. And you'll see this a lot in the MVC frameworks in the JavaScript space, and that's a funny thing because there are so many MVC JavaScript frameworks, MV Star, and we'll talk about that later in the quiz, where there's so many different, like, alternative variants of MVC. Yeah. But there's a good website that I use a lot, and it's called todomvc.com. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of that.
No.
So it's a really great website where this guy, Adi, I think he works for Google, and he's literally him and a bunch of people have worked and put on, implemented a simple to-do application, which I'm sure we all do in our application, you know, in our when we first get to a language or a framework, for all of the, like, pretty much the popular JavaScript frameworks. And so, because it's a nice simple example, you can then see the differences between them, because everyone's got their own idea of how they want to implement and structure their site. You know, you've got Ember doing it a certain way, you've got you've got Angular and Backbone doing it different ways, and it's a great way just to see a simple example, because I like the simple examples, the page examples, which allow me then to just see, oh, so you do it this way, and you can compare it easy. So that's a really good website to check out. With the so we've got our passive model, and now this is the active model with the fat client, and really that just, as I said, was using the observer pattern and stuff, and because what it does then is it means then this allows unrelated views and controller components to be notified when the model has changed. So it doesn't matter, you don't break the factor connecting, because of you using like a publish subscribe model in the case of the view to the model. You can then have the real what MVC was meant to be like now, and you'll see that there's this kind of tie, between being a back-end guy who will deal with like a thin client approach, but now we're going with the fat clients where the client has more knowledge of what's going on.
Okay, yeah.
Issues. Now that's a fact. What issues have you had with MVC? Like, starting off, I can list a lot where I'm sure you're going to probably pinpoint one of my mistakes that I made in one of the first projects I did at the company I used to work at.
You make it sound like I enjoy pointing out your weaknesses, but
there's many. I'm surprised you don't find them, but yes,
I do actually. I do. But the fat controller issue. I'm guessing you're referring to.
Yes, the sin of all sins. Yeah, almost like the God class is a term they use, which is making something the controller should only oversee the operations of the views and models. Like as Mickey was saying, it should be the traffic keeper. The model should be clever. There's a good quote. It's you should have smart models, thin controllers, and dumb views. And that's great. The idea, I want my models to be smart. They know all the logic they need, whether that be ORM type base where you can get database calls or just business logic. I want my thin controllers to be that they literally, all they do is just, as you say, like they gateway, they're just checking, the road, organizing everything. And then the views are dumb enough that they don't have any real logic in there to be like, you can output in HTML, then you can also output in XML, and you can output in JSON with the same information that's been given to you by the controller.
Yeah.
What I did though was I used a fat controller thin model approach where my models were literally just the ORM, pretty much the object oriented, the database. It was actually just a 1-to-1 on the database, whatever the table was, pretty much. And I did all my logic in controller. And it was great at the beginning, but then you soon realise it's like, how do you unit test this? Well, every time you unit test it, you have to use something, you have to emulate requests and stuff. You can't just abstract this model away because the model is actually really so entwined into the controller, and that one request that, doing database calls and etc. required you to go through the full process of hitting like the front controller, which is, the going through the request cycle. So
no one is here to judge you. I mean,
but throw stones all you like. Because that happens.
If you might lose your sponsorship from your chili cola company.
So what was that? Cola Chili? Oh no, Cola Rebel. It makes people go from fat controllers to thin controllers.
Oh dear.
Awful.
Yeah, that just happened.
Yeah. What about you, Lou? I mean, how much do you put in your models, and how much do you put in your controllers?
I suppose it varies. I definitely try and put as much as I can into the model, because kind of the way that I've learned MVC is to use the thin controller fat model program idea, and quite often, obviously, database work can be quite extensive sometimes, so it's the best place for it to go. I find that I'm definitely coding the best when I'm literally just like I have my controller method. The first part of that goes off to get whatever I need, and then I just literally have my array of data that I'm going to pass into the view. And the simpler that I can keep that, then the better. And I kind of have a anything goes rule with my models, whatever I need to do. That's kind of if it's ever going to get ugly anywhere, it's going to be in the model. But try because once you realise where you need to be in that model, that's fine. You can work with it there, but if you've got a nice clean controller and a nice clean view, and you can see all that stuff, then it's already going to be easier to work with. But how you arrive at that data is not always clean cut.
Do you split your model? Like, because a lot of, as I say, like originally when I started, I was literally a one-on-one relationship with tables. So I'd use the object, like a user table. Do you ever split things up, saying actually this can be abstracted and be used another place and stuff, and not relying on the fact that I've got a user table, so I need to have a user controller, maybe having an admin model as well or something, that kind of thing. So user model, admin model, but they both may link to the same database table. It's just the fact that it's not that one-on-one relationship.
Well, that's one of the golden rules of HMVC. Is basically, for every table you have a module, and a module will have in it one controller, one model, and then however many views that you have. And the idea, I should point out, HMVC is exclusively like how I code now as well. But anything that relates to that table should be contained within that module, so that by doing that, then you've got a situation where if you ever need to import that users module or that blog module to another website, in theory, all the logic that you need is contained. That's the English word. Sorry, contained within that module.
Well, actually,
there are times, obviously, when you need to use more than one. For example, when you've got the posts and categories kind of situation, then you wouldn't tend to dump all that into one place. But no, other than that, no, I really do. I try and keep everything talking to where it should be as much as possible.
So actually that segues quite well into the quiz, where the first question I wanted to ask you guys was, because of the popularity with the MVC patterns, they've given rise to many variants. So which of these is not one? So I've got 4 examples. One of these is not actually a variant of MVC. So we've got HMVC.
Is
MVP. And then we won't say, you don't say MVP. HMV or MVVM. So which one are you going to go for, sirs?
That's like saying HMVC, MVC, Virgin Megastore.
I'm going to go with MVP.
Okay, and what about you, Lee?
Oh, I'm going to have to go with HMV, and that's going to be embarrassing.
No, it's not, because guess what? You've just done it, sir.
No.
Ha-ha.
What's HMV then?
No, HMV is not one.
Oh, it isn't one?
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah, one of these is not one.
Right.
Thank God for that.
So out of MVP, HMV, or MVVM.
Sorry. So what's MVP? That's what I meant.
MVP. So MVP is called the Model View Presenter.
Okay.
And you'll see this, it is used a lot in the JavaScript world. And the idea is that you have instead of a controller, you have a presenter, which assumes the functionality of that middleman that you were talking about before with the controller. And the idea is that all the presentation logic is pushed to the presenter. And then the viewer is responsible. So the viewer is then responsible for rendering the UI elements. The view interface is used to loosely couple the presenter from its view. And then the presenter is responsible for interacting between the view and the model. And the view interface, so the view has an interface which then it can interact with. And the presenter is the idea that there's kind of this mediatory between the model and the actual presenter itself. Okay. It provides it loosely coupled, so it provides more loosely coupled views to your models, and it's a lot easier to unit test.
Okay.
But then HMVC, I don't know if Lou, you've got anything else to say, because I was interested with HMVC. Do you have any duplication? Because I was saying you said posts and categories. I was thinking, well, what happens if the categories needs to be used on its own in another? Do you have to duplicate that model, or is there a way to kind of take bits or import certain elements?
My way of getting around that is that a lot of the logic is used very, very similarly across all the modules. And the way I get around that is like in CodeIgniter, you had a my controller and a my model. I create a file that does that. So every kind of command that's going to be exclusive across all of those modules, just like your basic CRUD functions, your inserting and updating and all that stuff, that function is only exists in one place.
So the trouble with that, though, is because you're then depending on that my model, aren't you, I suppose?
Well, the beauty of it is, because, I was toing and froing with the idea of this, and I thought, obviously the idea is to try and repeat yourself as little as possible. So in the first instance, that's the method I'm going to use. And then if it gets to a situation where I do need something that's a bit more complex, then I just have to write one specific to the module that I'm using. That's the way that I do it.
I find it really interesting because I'm really torn on this. I mean, I see both points of view, and I really like the idea, like what you're saying. You could literally, you build a new site, and you're just going to take that module from one site and just copy, paste, job done, more or less. But
like making your own PHP plugins, I guess.
Yeah, but having not done it myself, I do kind of think that I would somehow end up duplicating code somehow.
And you'd have dependencies. That's the only thing I can think of, which would be a bit of a pain. But then that's like the real world, really. As you say, it's just like a package that you can include.
True.
The artful element to HMVC is that you try and do away with the dependencies. Everything's isolated, so everything can be moved purely on its own.
Then that's the only trouble with that. Then is the duplication. That's it's a good. I think the cool thing about it is the fact that it's like it's a way to structure packages for the web in a way that makes sense for the web.
Yeah.
The thing, I suppose, aren't you faced with that kind of situation? I mean, you're not doing anything majorly different to MVC on its own anyway. You're still having all your controllers and all your models and all your views, but you're just compartmentalizing them into a module. So it's no different to having one controller directory with a load of controller files in it that might all say the same thing. It's just literally grabbing the user's controller, grabbing the user's model, and grabbing all the views related to the users and sticking them inside one big directory called users.
I suppose. I think it's a great way of doing it just for a project. But the trouble is, I don't know how easy it is to take bits out and because it's the way in everything, is it? It's like, this plugin can be used anywhere, and you can just paste it in. I think actually, just on a level of just like for this, this project uses HMVC for itself. So you do have to have the dependency still, but you have that structure, because I can definitely see that structure, as you're saying, like for bigger projects, it would make a lot of sense to have these individual bits that then people can be working on in their own time. And you could also probably unit test better, because you could just be interacting with that controller itself without having to go through the whole application. The
biggest thing that the whole way of HMVC works for me is if I'm in a situation where let's just say I've got to make a simple blog site. I'm in a position, but I've made a previous website that has a blog in it, for example. But this site on its own is literally just a blog site on its own. All I literally need to do is go to that site and grab my blog module, my blog post module, and my blog categories module out of that, chuck it straight in. That's all I've got to do. And then the only adaptation that needs to occur is styling up the HTML pages.
I'm thinking
you can make websites so quickly because you've got code that you've already made and used somewhere else.
Yeah, I'm thinking.
Sorry, go on.
Oh, sorry, mate. I was just going to say. I mean, I think it's a really interesting topic, and not one that we can sum up in 5 minutes. And I don't know how long Fraser's on his course for, but I mean, probably a natural progression from this topic is going to be frameworks, and perhaps we could even put a part of that in. If you didn't mind, Lou, actually talking about how you do HMVC with CI.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that was where I first started doing it.
Yeah, or your own framework, whatever. But perhaps that's something we should look into in the next podcast, maybe.
My biggest concern with what I've been talking about so far is that maybe I'm not being clear. What are the kind of biggest things that I need to get across that might not have been clear so far?
With HMVC?
Yeah.
I think it is very clear what you're talking about. I mean, obviously, the main selling point in my mind is the modularity, the fact that you can take it and drop it into another place. I think that's really well explained. I think it would just be good to look at a real example, and that's why I think something like if we do talk about Coding Night at some point, it'd be good just to talk through how you do that with CI and how it works for you, and just give some examples, I guess, of modules you've made in the past and how it's worked. But,
certainly, yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
But anyway, 1-0 Lou. So, next question.
Oh, okay. All right. So, but moving on from the...
are we still on the quiz?
Sorry. So carrying on from that, we've got it's a very long quiz. Carrying on from that, so MVVM is model view view model. So model view and then a view model. And the idea, it's used in popular frameworks like Knockout and Angular. It was originally defined by Microsoft for their WPF, which is their Windows Presentation Foundation, and it's based on MVC and MVP. And the idea of it is it attempts to be more clearly separate the development of user interfaces from that of the business logic and behavior in the application. So a view really should. The idea is that you have to expose the entire model to the view, usually on the client side, if you want to be strict MVC. Thus sacrificing the security and the possibly incurring a performance hit, because of the way MVC actually properly does it, with the fact that model interacts with that view, the model would have to always be on the view. So what this does is it kind of adds a model in the view part, which is a bit clever, and it's quite an interesting example. So the idea that I got online was, let's imagine that we have a model containing a date in the Unix format, so it's just that long number format. And then rather than our models being aware of the user's view of that date, so maybe we want to do it in the British time, which is date, month, year, where it would be necessary to convert the address to its display format. So we'd have to convert that to its display format in the module and then give it to the view that way. Our model simply holds the raw format of the date, and then our view contains the formatted date, and our view model actually acts as the middleman, which does the actual conversion for us.
Okay.
So it's this kind of idea that there's a bit of model, and
like helpers, maybe.
Kind of, yeah. It's like having a bit of model in the actual on the client, because you need the bit of model. You can't give it the whole model, because else that would be really bad for your business. But giving a little bit, making the views a bit more clever, and that works really well in like frameworks like Knockout and Angular.
Okay.
My second question is, which language was MVC first implemented in? And I've got three possible examples, three possible languages: C, Smalltalk, or Fortran.
So we said that MVC came out in the 70s, right?
Yep, that's correct, sir.
Those languages were all about then. I don't know when C came out, actually, but probably...
I think it was late 70s. I tried to make it so it was a little hard to be annoying, but I gave you three. So, Lou, what would you think? C, Smalltalk, or Fortran?
I'm going to say C, and I'm going to say C for one reason only. It's
Cool.
the only one that I've heard of. Therefore, I know it definitely exists.
Oh, they all exist. They all exist.
So you didn't say that.
Oh, I should have done HMV again, just carried that going. Or Rebel Cola. It's
okay.
C.
I'm thinking, do you go with C? Okay, I'm thinking Smalltalk was like one of the first OO languages, right? Or it was...
And GUIs and stuff like that.
Yeah, and Fortran would have been around for ages by that point. And I think even by then, Fortran was probably becoming unpopular. So I'm going to go... it's one that didn't.
No, it's one that did. It was the first one.
The first one. Oh, man, I'm going to go for Smalltalk then.
Boom, done it, sir. Yeah, it was implemented in 76 by Tyvig, whatever his name is, in Zero Park. Oh,
come on.
But yes,
so
that would have been my next guess.
1-0.
Another, so we've got two more. This was a commonplace in desktop GUI implementations for the view and controller is for them to be combined into one. So, in desktop GUI applications, in combining the view and controller to make pretty much a clever view, almost like the view model thing. What is the name for this? So, is it document view, is it view controller, or is it CV?
Can I go first?
You can indeed.
I'm going to go with CV.
Okay, and Luis?
I think CV as well. I don't know why.
That's a lot.
It's document view. And that's what I put CV in. I was thinking I would have gone for CV as well. Yeah, document view for some reason. It's the Microsoft. I found it on Microsoft's website. Very weird, but that's the more you know, the more you know.
Yeah.
See, I'm a Mac man these days, so
here we go.
Stuff like this slips through the net.
Where did the idea for software design patterns originate? This is interesting. This one. Which domain? I haven't got possible choices, but I'll make some up. No, I won't make any up because I'll just go for it. It's a type of a designing type thing, construction type thing.
Fraser Floristry Design Constructions.
Epic. Almost. .com.
Oh, was it .com? Oh, I knew it was one of those. I knew the first bit was right.
Can you ask the question again?
So where did the idea for software design patterns originate? So the idea of design patterns have originated in others, like in other industries.
Yeah.
But where did software design patterns come from?
I can tell you where they didn't come from.
That's a good.
In my head.
You know what? I have no clue.
So it actually came from architect. So from an architect, he was started to aid in the design of buildings and cities.
Okay.
An architect named Christopher Alexander in the late 70s. And he idea that there was a lot of things that they reused. The idea is not the actual base implementation, but the idea that the higher level description of the thing. And then in the mid 80s, Kent Beck, and you'll know his that name's rubbished around a lot. Kent Beck and Ward
Kent
Cumming.
Beck, yes.
They began experimenting with the idea of applying these patterns to programming. And then you had the Gang of Four book, which was published in 1994, which is the design patterns book, pretty much. But that is... So I think no one got that. But then the last one is the fun one. Name as many PHP MVC frameworks as you can. You each get to go one after the other, trying to name how...
Okay. Lee, I'll let you go first.
Is this like framework tennis or?
It's pretty much framework tennis. You just keep that, and PHP MVC frameworks.
Okay. Code Igniter.
Boom.
Laravel.
Cake.
Zend.
Fuel.
Cake.
You've already said that.
Okay.
Mallet.
What's the one I always go on about?
You can. Your friend.
Yee.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Oh, it's my turn now, is it?
Yeah, I know, you just gave it away.
Kahana.
Wow.
Nice one, sir. Hey.
Symphony.
Fuel.
We've had that, haven't we?
Oh, no, have we?
Said it.
Yeah.
Oh, damn. This is where I would drop in the name of my framework.
I know, that's what I wanted you to do,
it.
actually. I wanted the end one to be, Lou's framework.
Yeah, Dynamite.
Boom.
Boom. Dynamite. Boom.
Oh, man, I am really struggling now.
Isn't there one just called PHP MVC?
There probably is, actually. I only put this one in because it's fun just to think we see so many MVC frameworks around.
I concede defeat. I have no idea.
Lou, I think you've won this week, sir.
Oh man.
I can't have won. I only knew the HMVC bit, and I knew a few names of frameworks. There's no way I could have won that.
You've done it, man. Because we didn't get the design pattern one. Both of you lost. No, did you? Yeah, you both lost on the GUI one. Yeah, you've done it, man.
Which frameworks did we miss out on?
Oh god, I had no loads probably. I didn't actually write any down. I was just thinking it'd be a laugh just to see how long it would take just to.
So does Lou win a can of Rebel Cola or whatever it is?
He wins a lifetime supply of Cola Rebel. It's
Cola
Fantastic.
Wow.
Yeah.
In the show notes.
Can I get the cheese flavoured one?
Absolutely, mate. It
Fantastic.
wouldn't be anything. Every bottle of this comes with some cheddar cheese or a cheese of your choice.
Guys, we've run out over the hour mark, and I'm thinking it'd be good to maybe have a think about anything that we've missed out on, and we'll bring that to next week's episode, and perhaps go into frameworks themselves.
That sounds cool, man. We really shouldn't say what we're going to do next on the podcast, because we always just think about this, plan to look forward to the fact we're going to do this, and then we're going to completely trash your dreams.
I'm actually away next week. I'm going skiing, but I'm translate into where I am during the podcast.
Okay. So it might just be me and Man next week then. That'd be interesting. We're
going to have to get some guests on.
Yeah, we will.
Could be dangerous.
Yes, yeah, we'll do that.
Yeah. I'm sure the ship is in good hands with you two. It was before.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
You don't know us at all. Train wreck of an hour it'll be. But anyway, this hour's been awesome.
Yeah, thanks, Ed Man, for all your hard work.
I hope you're having fun, Fraser. Flowers and whatnot.
Fun.
We
post
miss you.
some photos on Twitter.
Yes, please. Twitter and Facebook.
Yeah, and please, everyone listen to podcasts, really get behind Fraser and send him some messages of encouragement, because he does lack confidence in his work sometimes, which is strange because he's very, very good.
Yeah, he's very good and very confident in other things. So, but Lord knows.
Very odd. Yeah.
Don't forget to do that thing where you cut them first.
That shows our knowledge of flower forestry, doesn't it? Cut them.
I don't know. I can't remember what that bit's called. Is it just called cutting?
It's
pruning.
Prune. Oh.
Fraser will be so angry. We don't
know. He will.
He's always talking about it, isn't he?
The week he comes on, in a couple of weeks, he's just going to go an hour of this.
Yeah, he talks to us about it all the time, and we never listen. But sorry, Fraser. But anyway, that is a wrap, I think. So thanks everyone for listening, and we will be back next week. Some of us will be, at least, anyway. So
bye.
See you then.
I'm not sure where I'm going to be, but I look forward to hearing about it.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, bye.
You've been listening to 3 Devs and a Maybe. You can contact us at contact@3devsandamaybe.com or follow us on Twitter at 3devsandamamaybe.